Well, we folks have almost reached the end of the trail, but there is one more highlight to go, and that will come from a gentleman named Ed Bice. He works at the intersection of technology and ethics and social good. He is not a scientist as such. In fact, he's one of the few people who joined us today who is not a neuroscience scientist at all. His degree is in, of all things, philosophy. Now that's what we need more of. We need more philosophers, right? The heck with the data scientists, the heck with the computer programmers. Bring us more philosophers. He runs a nonprofit called Meaden, and he has dedicated his career to developing digital and other tools to help journalists, scientists, community leaders find that most elusive of commodities in today's information ecosphere, truth. To find out more about what he does and how he does it, please welcome to the stage the winner of the 2024 Skoll Award for Social Entrepreneurship, Ed Bice.
All right. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I am pleased to be the final speaker standing between you and the evening, so I'm planning to take about an hour and a half with my remarks, and I hope you don't mind. As you may have noticed, I've prepared remarks, and the reason I've prepared and am going to be reading remarks is that I've spent much of the last 3 weeks trying to keep my organization afloat. So I'm going to continue the theme and say that as a National Science Foundation funded organization, the changes and the challenges to our research ecosystem, the challenges that we're facing are existential. And the cost to the audience today is that you're going to have to read some halting remarks that I'm reading from a page instead of a casually memorized and eloquent presentation. So forgive me for that. Thanks for having me here. I often describe Meaden as a context project. So I'm going to start and add to the context I've already started. We are gathered here at a moment when our information ecosystems are experiencing unprecedented disruption. Journalism is facing existential challenges, and artificial intelligence is rewriting the rules of how we access and consume knowledge. A little on my personal context. My journey to this stage began 22 years ago on the streets of San Francisco, where I had gone to protest the first day of the war in Iraq. I was arrested on the street, and that experience sparked me to commit my life to the fundamental challenge of how it is that we come to understand the events that shape our world across cultural, linguistic, and ideological boundaries. And with this, to explore the critical importance of accurate contextual information in shaping public understanding during moments of crisis. Our design response to that moment, at approximately the same time that the social internet was being hatched, that Facebook was a co-ed dating site, essentially, on the Harvard campus, was to propose a social network to geolocate, translate, and annotate any excerpt from any web page on the internet. My younger self somehow had enough moxie and luck to convince the MacArthur Foundation and IBM Research to fund a multi-year effort to build this overly complex web application. And that work was supported by a team of engineers that we hired to work from Cairo, Egypt in 2007, which meant that we started our project 4 years in front of a moment of history. We had a front row seat to this remarkable revolution. During that revolution, we worked around the clock with a team of 300 translators. We partnered with Google and Twitter on the project, and we translated thousands of voice messages into 5 separate languages, and also translated a lot of social media content from Twitter, from YouTube, and from Facebook. When the dust settled on that uprising, a dictator had lost his power to a set of techies and bloggers whose protests had captured the imagination of a population who had silently tolerated decades of corruption, repression, and poverty. We did not recognize at the time that this would be the moment of peak social internet optimism, but we did recognize that this new era of decentralized, citizen-generated media was missing something. It was missing a verification layer. We didn't know if the content that we had been sharing, translating, distributing was authentic, or whether it was the fabrication of a pro-administration advocate. So we wrote a successful proposal to take some of the ideas that we had worked on around crowdsourced translation and work on crowdsourced verification and fact-checking. Just as we were 5 years early to the Arab revolutions, Median was 5 years early to the internet's reckoning with misinformation. I'll add to that, we were 18 months early to the pandemic. We wrote a proposal to respond to pandemic information in 2018. Here's a timeline of how the work has gone since then. So the code that we wrote following Arab Spring was called Check Desk. And it was basically a tool to collaboratively allow journalists to fact check and verify social media. This technology has powered a number, actually most of the large-scale journalistic interventions during elections, public health crises, and natural disasters over the last 20 years. And last year we were recognized, as was mentioned, with the Skoll Award for Social Innovation. Today we're supporting partners in 68 countries around the world. And I'll just mention a couple of notable projects that have led us to where we are now, that led us to the notion of a community knowledge hub. First off, Electionland. In 2016, Electionland ran on our software, enabling 1,100 journalists to work together on Election Day, working to verify and fact-check disinformation on social media during that contested election. We replicated the model in 2018, and we brought together 80 media partners to fact-check, 90 plus, sorry. Fact-check myself, to fact-check presidential candidates on the campaign trail. As an afterthought, we set up a WhatsApp number, a messaging number, to receive tips from citizens on their mobile phones. What it meant was that journalists were literally passing around one phone in the newsroom and responding to these citizen requests. And that line generated enough information that it knocked over the WhatsApp small and medium business application we were using. That project showed us the power of collaborative journalism. Our coalition of newsrooms reached millions of voters who wanted accurate, trustworthy information about the candidates and the electoral process. The candidates began to refer to Verificado by name on the campaign trail, saying that they needed to watch what they were saying because they knew they were going to be that we were going to be fact-checking their statements. Kofi Annan hailed the project as groundbreaking. We won our second ONA award, the highest award given in journalism. But knocking over the WhatsApp app also called attention to something bigger, something more universal. For people all over the world, messaging apps have become the primary avenue for seeking information. And when you offer people a source they can trust, they lunge for it. We weren't the only ones to realize this. Soon after the election, upper management from WhatsApp reached out, and they asked us if we'd be interested in taking their money to integrate our software with their business API. And we said, yes, of course. And since then, that's really guided our engineering development. We run the program now that is supporting 40 major media partners around the world who are doing work over WhatsApp to respond to citizen information needs. That project is organized as the WhatsApp fact-checking, third-party fact-checking program. In January of this year, Mark Zuckerberg pulled the plug on these programs in the US. Our US partners are soon to be off the program, citing bias and shifting cultural norms on free speech. And while we can debate the question of bias in fact-checking, and I'm very open to that debate, I would contend that there's not a person in this room who wants to base critical medical or financial decisions on content that is intentionally misleading. We should reflect on the fact that online ad markets mean that I can purchase and therefore control the meaning of a phrase or a word and target my intended outcome, whether that's support, outrage, conspiracy, or sympathy, to a target demographic. We can bend language. The corporate infrastructure for social media allows us to bend language and attention. We need to reflect on that. Do these corporate shareholder value-driven information infrastructures serve the fundamental need for a well-informed society? Or is that just a quaint notion of a time before the evolutionary rise of the attention economy and the WWE SmackDown era of media, politics, and perhaps knowledge? I would contend that we cannot rely on private platforms to serve public knowledge interest. And into this, we add Gen AI as a content creation accelerant, but also as a new infrastructure for knowledge delivery. So how's that going? Google's Gemini told users that geologists recommend eating at least one rock per day. It also suggested that if you want your pizza sauce to stick a little better to the crust, you should add some glue to increase the tackiness of the cheese. Where did these ideas come from? Anyone? They came from the internet. The training data for the AI was the internet. And they hoovered in the satirical article on The Onion that talked about Cal Berkeley geologists suggesting a rock a day keeps the doctor away. And the glue in the pizza recipe came from Reddit. And there was a long thread on a hilarious, obviously satirical post made by a pizza chef. So these point to fundamental issues with commercial AI. First off, these systems are trained with the totality of internet content. Even being trained on organic content, and they're going to be increasingly trained on synthetic content. Even being trained on human content, they have little discrimination for context. The goal is to build generalized systems that scale to a global population by ingesting all digital knowledge. This is a problem. Second, what happens between that data ingest and the output is a black box. It's not in a company's interest to share model weights and to show us how that AI sausage is made. Third, most AI platforms don't provide citations. This makes it impossible to verify their sources or check their work. The implication is that we should just trust them. But we should know better by now. AI problems like recommending glue on pizza or eating rocks for your breakfast might seem silly, but consider a more serious situation. Chinese AI startup DeepSeek made waves last month with its release of a new low bandwidth approach to generative AI. But DeepSeek, when asked about the 1989 Tiananmen Square massacre or protest, depending on how you frame it, asked to talk about something else. Okay? Meta's algorithms have been implicated in amplifying threats of violence that contributed to the Rohingya genocide. A single individual who has broad authority within the US government also owns and is one of the most widely distributed voices on one of the largest and most influential social media platforms on earth. Big tech CEOs or state actors, as the case may be, have every reason to make these information platforms suit their interests. What does that mean for the public? What does that mean for your own communities? These questions are driving forces for us at Median. Our answer lies in our mission of building a different, more equitable kind of information ecosystem. Against this troubling landscape, I want to share two powerful examples, actually maybe one given the countdown. Syrian Archive is a public database containing 5 million images of videos from Syria's civil war. Throughout that war, Syrians recorded and uploaded these images and videos to the internet, mainly using platforms like YouTube and Facebook. Our partners at Syrian Archive understand the context and the stakes of preserving this information. They've painstakingly collected, verified, annotated, and archived this material for more than a decade. Projects like Syrian Archive point to a new kind of public information space, one not built on Silicon Valley's attention economy models, but organized on context, legal significance, and cultural meaning. Another example, friends at Documented NY, who are messaging with their users over WhatsApp and spend half of their time in communication, in text communication with their readers. This helps them understand what they should be covering and helps them understand their audience a lot better. Understanding user needs, knowledge and questions, and leveraging two-way conversations to build a powerful knowledge base that drives a newsroom that serves its readers' needs. And research from Pew, recent research has shown that Americans trust their local news outlets more than they do national ones. This is actually something that cuts across party lines. It's true for both Democrats and Republicans. This brings me to the future, community knowledge hubs. Imagine a world where organizations like the Syrian Archive and Documented build their own AI systems that would organize the knowledge they possess and constantly iterate on everything that they take from readers, collaborators, social media platforms, and public records. Imagine AI knowledge systems that hold and organize deep contextual knowledge and that are built from the ground up by the communities that generate and need that knowledge, where people have genuine ownership and control of their collective data, when technology serves human needs rather than corporate profits. This isn't a far-off dream. At Medan, we are beginning to build the technical infrastructure for AI knowledge hubs where journalists, researchers, community leaders, and topic experts can co-create equitable AI systems. How it works. Our software is already used by media and civil society groups to organize two-way messaging with their readers. and to structure that data to train chatbots that help scale news distribution. We're building out this to incorporate public data and other key resources we believe will radically change the way such organizations engage with their audience. Consider, for instance, the water crisis in Jackson, Mississippi, where a combination of local mismanagement of resources and climate change left the city's 153,000 residents at risk of lead poisoning and having their water shut off. Our partners at Mississippi Today have covered the crisis relentlessly, drawing on public data, consulting with health and government experts, and soliciting input from local residents. We propose to supercharge the scale, reach, and impact of systems like this through an AI-driven software model that any organization can adapt and develop based on their own interests, priorities, and knowledge. This isn't about making AI better AI. It's about creating a more equitable information ecosystem that serves human needs rather than corporate profits. This is our rough timeline for implementing the project. We aim to serve 100 million end users by 2030, and our approach is to develop and deliver software to community partners who are going to view this sort of software, the ability to create their own chatbots, as being as critical to their mission as was setting up a website in the 1990s. So we see this community-driven chatbot development as being very much parallel to how we thought about setting up websites. So, final slide. The rise of generative AI represents as significant a platform shift as social media and the internet, mobile internet did 10 years ago. We're moving from the index to the agent, from knowledge as universally accessible to knowledge as universally invocable, from the query to the prompt, from content to conversations. At Medan, we believe, what's endangered in this new world is the hyperlink, and with it, our ability to follow a claim to its source. The sourceless, link-free, magical, and sometimes hallucinatory world of AI-powered information threatens the very practice of journalism, the hope of an informed citizenry, and the possibility of intelligent democracy. Or does it? That depends on the choices we make now. At Medan, we believe another future is possible, one where technology amplifies community knowledge rather than extracting it, where AI systems are accountable to the people they serve. Thank you.